Hi, this is Sue, the Stress Hacker, and it is Christmas Eve 2021, and I'm making a short yoga video for actually my own group of students, but given that I'm putting it on YouTube, that's all of you. Usual ground rules, please. Don't do this if you've just eaten. Leave at least 2 hours after a light meal, 4 hours after a big meal. If you have any injuries, take care of yourself. Try to keep your ego out of the class, out of the mat, off of the mat, and just be careful, look after yourself. So if something feels twingy, sharp, burning, stop it. If it's achy and bruised and you can breathe into it and it goes away, then that's great to continue. Just a rough guideline. Okay, if you'd like to lay on your mat, and you can start in Shavasana, which is one of the 8 classical yoga postures. And this is a hatha yoga class, but it's got a mixture of all kinds of things in it. So we're laying here in Shavasana just to get a little grounded. As you lay onto the mat now, take your feet mat width apart, your arms away from your body with the palms facing your ceiling, and then just let go and relax. Close your eyes. And the first thing you can do is take a scan of the back of your body. Where are you? Are you leaning more to the right? Let's start with the back of the head. Are you flat, a nice little circle on the back of your head, or moving, veering more to the right or more to the left? Just notice. Don't change anything, just pick up on your habitual patterns. Take the awareness to the back of the neck. There should be space between the floor and your neck. And then how do the shoulders feel? Do they feel very tense? Just think they're relaxing. Believe they're relaxing, they will relax. Bring the awareness down through the backs of the arms, back of the hands, resting on the floor. When we have the palms facing the ceiling in this way, we are able to open across the upper chest a little more and relax those shoulder blades down to the ground. And then bring the awareness down through your upper back. And just notice whether the muscles on one side of your spine perhaps feel a little tighter than the other. So you're just observing at the moment. And as you bring your awareness down through the back to the lower back, notice any space between the floor and your lower back as you bring your awareness now down to the sacrum, that kind of flat bone at the base of the spine. Well, sometimes it's quite scrunched up. It's a sort of butterfly, triangular shaped bone, makes up the pelvic girdle. And then bring the awareness down through the buttocks, back of the thighs. Notice if there's more space behind one knee than another. Perhaps more of one calf muscle resting on the floor than another. Perhaps one of your feet is pointing out to the sides more than another. So just notice. And you know, the best yoga is done with your own experience. So you don't need to keep looking at me. I'll give good instructions. Close your eyes. And if you're already kind of itching to get on with the next bit, don't be. Just be here now. Be in the moment. And taking a nice deep in-breath through your nose. Sigh the breath out through the mouth with a ha. And again. Some of you may already be experiencing low backache, tight backs. So let's just slide the feet onto the floor. You should have bare feet now. And slide your feet up your mat so that your feet are hip width apart, reasonably close to the buttocks. And then lift your buttocks, your lower back, and scoot the buttocks down toward the heels. And that will just open up the back a little, the lower back, just lengthening it slightly. You may wish to then stretch your legs out again or keep them bent where they are. Keep the mind on the breath. If the mind wanders, which it will do, it's the nature of the mind, just bring it back to your next inhalation, next exhalation. Just begin to flatten your back to the floor and then gently round it up again. Flatten the lower back to the floor, gently arch it up again. So just continue to do this. Another way of describing this is the pubis rolls toward the navel and then the pubis rolls away. Rolling the pubis toward the navel, rolling it away. And just continue in this way. And you're always using your nose to breathe. Even if you feel a little blocked up, just continue to breathe through the nose and out through the mouth, or in through the nose and out through the nose. So this is just a gentle pelvic tilt, just beginning to bring a bit of energy, a bit of awareness down to the sacral area, around that second chakra, Shavasana. And that's great. Now just rest in the center and imagine a very small clock on the base of your spine. Imagine midnight is facing up towards your neck and sits down towards your heels. Just begin to move again from 12 to 6, 6 to 12, just as you were doing a moment ago, but with this imaginary clock on the base of your spine, just a small clock, continuing these pelvic tilts, remembering to breathe in through the nose, out through the nose, or in through the nose, out through the mouth, and just rocking. Can you just check also that your feet are firmly planted on the floor, big toes, little toes, toes in between, outer edges of the feet and the heels, and then rest in the center. Now imagine 3 o'clock and 9 o'clock on your clock, and you move from 3 to the center over to 9, from 9 back to the center over to 3. So just continue this. It's like a little stepping movement with your sacrum. Move in your mind's eye over to 3 o'clock, back to the center, over to 9, back to the center. So this begins to stimulate the energy in the pelvic bowl in the second chakra. You can feel it's already kind of activating some muscles there. You're still breathing, don't hold your breath, bring your mind back to the here and now. And ensure that your feet are firmly grounded. And one more from each side, from 9 to the center to 3, and then rest in the center. And then just imagine you could circle around each number of the clock. Breathing in through the nose, breathing out through the nose or through the mouth. And then circle back in the opposite direction. Just imagine that you're circling through each number on this mini clock on the base of your spine. You might feel the weight slightly shifting through the feet as you do this. Very small movement, but it is bringing energy to the second chakra, which needs to be energetic, as if it's fluid there. We tend to get very stagnant energy around this area with tight hips, tight lower back, abdominal issues, and rest in the center. Excellent. So you can bring your right knee towards your chest, taking your hand around the shin. Try and avoid the knee if you can. So the hands ideally between the ankle and the knee. But if you can't reach there, either grab a sock or a yoga strap and place it across the shin, or take your hands behind your thigh. But the idea is that we're keeping this thigh quite close to the chest. Single wind relieving exercise is designed to expel gas from the abdominal region. So there you are, you're pulling that thigh down toward the chest. If you've got a weak neck, just put something underneath your head, small pillow, a yoga block. Take a nice deep in breath through the nose. As you breathe out through the mouth, you're going to sigh the breath out with a long ha. Bringing the forehead to the knee. Completely exhale before breathing in through the nose, taking the head back down. Keep repeating, do this 5 times on the right side. And then bring the head back to the floor. Slowly release that right foot to the floor, bending the left knee to the chest, taking the hands around the shin or around the back of the thigh,
Keep that right foot firmly planted, drawing the left thigh down to the chest. Strong in-breath through the nose. As you bring the forehead to the knee, long out-breath through the mouth. You can make any kind of sound. Just continue 5 times on this side while I keep talking. And as you breathe out through the mouth, you can make any kind of sound. It can be a shh, a s, whatever feels right for you. Apparently these different sounds pertain to different organs in the body. So whatever sound you're making may relate to the need for that organ to release a little tension, perhaps. Keep that chin tucked down in towards the chest as you bring the forehead to the knee on the out-breath. Strong in-breath through the nose as you take the head back down. When you've completed your 5 on this side, lay the head back on the floor, left foot on the floor. And that's great. So they're great if you've overindulged a bit over Christmas or any time you're feeling a bit bloated around the abdominal area. Okay, let's just bend the knees to the chest again, one hand on each knee, keep the fingers pointing away from you. Just gently rock the knees towards you and away from you, towards you and away from you. So just focusing around this hip abdominal area at the moment, just waking things up a little bit. And then as you gently ease the knees away from you, this time just keep the hands on the knees and just small circles with the knees, just circling the knees as if you're kind of rowing. And that's just oiling the hip joints, just giving some energy to this ball and socket joint that is the hips. And of course, we tend to use it as a hinge joint a lot in life with our standing up and sitting down, standing up and sitting down. So unless you're a salsa dancer or a kickboxer, you don't have that kind of outward movement that the hip can do. So we're just oiling the hip joint by doing this. Circle back in the opposite direction now. So these are nice, just gentle warm-ups. This might be the only thing you have time for. You might need to switch off now and then come back and do a full class later. But even a little bit of movement is so good for you. We sit down too long, we stand up too long, and we just need to keep the body moving. And notice where your mind is. Are you here now? Are you in the past? Are you in the future? Be here now. And then resting with your feet on the floor. Just slide the right foot backwards and forwards on the mat. A little bit of proprioception, I mean. Okay, just getting a sense of where the ground is, helping us with balance. Now do the same with the other foot, just sliding the foot up and down the mat in this proprioception work that helps us with our balance and our sense of where we are in space. Stretch both legs away from you now. Inhaling, taking your arms up and over your head. If you can't reach, just bend the elbows and crook the arms, but taking a nice lengthening stretch through the body and then bringing the arms back down. And once more, inhale, take the arms up and over the head. If you can't stretch the full length, as I can't, just crossing your hands at the wrists perhaps so that you can open in the armpits, and then exhaling, bringing the arms back down beside you. And so if you'd like to bend the knees to the chest, have a little roll from side to side. So nice way of stretching out the lower back, gently rolling from side to side, feeling the muscles as if they're having a gentle massage on the floor. And as you roll from side to side, just allow your head to tilt gently in the opposite direction from your knees. So you're introducing a small, gentle spinal twist, toning the nerves along the spine and just waking up the nerves. So in yoga, we often hear that the youth of a person is measured by the flexibility of their spine. So we're aiming to keep our spine nice and flexible and rest in the center. So taking both legs up into the air, if that's not possible for you, just do one at a time. And you can always hold the back of your thighs if you wish. The other thing you can do now is just draw the navel a little way back towards your spine, draw in the pelvic floor, and then flex the toes, release, flex, release, flex, release, just the toes, flex, release, as if they're claws spreading them. You can, of course, add your fingers if you wish. And then flex and point the feet. Lifting the heels to the ceiling, then the toes, then the heels, then the toes. So even if you've got your navel drawn in, you've got all this lung capacity here, nice deep breath into the lungs. You might want to add the hands here, flex and point at the wrists. And then circle the feet in one direction. And if you're adding the hands, just tuck the thumbs in and circle the wrists. Circling in one direction. Keep the navel drawn in, keep breathing deeply, and circle back in the opposite direction. So these are parts of the Pawanmuktasana series, which is really just warm-ups, but they're anti-gastric and rheumatic. So we're aiming to get the additional kind of vata out of the body so that the joints function optimally. Let's roll from side to side again, and then we're going to roll over onto one side and stay there for a moment. Of course, the other thing about, our yoga practice, we're laying on our backs, we're looking at the world from a different perspective. We're looking at the ceiling for a change. And then as we roll over onto the side, stay here for a moment. And again, we're seeing a different perspective of the room that we might normally see. So we're going to come round and come onto all fours. And one of the favorite yoga poses, our cat stretch. So we're on all fours. We've got the hands underneath the shoulders, knees underneath the hips. If you've got problems with your wrists, you can either come onto fists or maybe take the hands a bit further forward. But whatever you're doing, spread the fingers. And then we're inhaling as we lengthen through the front of the spine. And as we exhale, drawing the chin gently toward the chest, rounding particularly the upper back. Inhaling. Breathe through the nose as we lengthen through the front of the spine. Powering the breath out through the mouth as we draw the chin to the chest. So you can always press your fingertips into the mat to give yourself a little additional strength. So if you're really flexible in your lower back, don't throw it around. Keep the lower back a little more quiet, as my friend Frances likes to say. She's an osteopath. She tells us to keep the lower back quiet if we've got problems there. And actually, given that the thoracic spine, middle of the back, is the tightest part of the spine because it has a rib cage attached to it, let's really think about widening the shoulder blades away from each other as we exhale. And as we inhale, lengthening through, imagine the shoulder blades gently drawing together, and as we exhale, widening the shoulder blades apart and giving that thoracic spine some lift there. Okay, that's a nice bit of stretching. Let's just sit back onto the heels for a moment, bring the forehead down toward the floor. Of course, if you're new to yoga and you can't reach, you could always put one fist on top of the other. Rest your forehead there, or perhaps put a couple of yoga blocks and rest there. It's okay to allow the head to hang a little bit, putting a little bit of stretch on the neck, but don't keep it there for too long. And then we're just going to come up and lay prone on our mats for a moment, and let's just make a pillow with our hands, resting forehead on the hands. And as you lay on your front, with your eyes closed, just feel the energy that's already beginning to move in your body. You may be a little bit more aware of some pulsing, some energy moving, some vibration in the space below your navel. And this is a good thing. We've got the energy flowing there already. And then we're going to come on to our forearms, just going to stay in a very gentle Sphinx pose. And so the elbows maybe slightly in front of the shoulders, hands flat on the floor, fingers spread. And this might just be enough for you, especially if you have low back issues. And if you do have low back issues, place a blanket underneath your abdomen, nice and flat and no wrinkles in it.
and that will help ease the lower back. So in Sphinx pose, we're just lifting and lengthening from the pubis to the navel, from the navel to the heart, from the heart to the throat. But does it feel like your shoulders are hunched up around your ears? If so, just slide the shoulder blades away from you, taking the gaze upwards. Okay, now the next thing we're going to do is we press hands into the floor, just pulling these bottom ribs away from the floor. Probably can't see it terribly well with my t-shirt, but just pull those bottom ribs away from the floor. So there might be a bit more pressure on the front of the hips, and then relax down. You can stay at that level, so you can just stay in Sphinx pose. You can start to pull the ribs back away from the floor. Or you can go to the next stage, which is actually lifting the hips from the floor. So if you've got knee issues, this might be a little challenging for you. You could again pad your knees with a folded blanket and try not to hold your breath, and slowly, gently release the hips down, the ribs down. Just take a rest for a moment with the forehead resting on your hands. Again, just feeling that thumping, pulsing sensation as we work a little harder in this Sphinx pose, and we're moving into a plank pose. So work at any stage that's comfortable for you. So you're on your forearms, you're just staying there and lengthening up if you wish, or you can start to pull the ribs away from the floor and just practice working at that stage. And squeeze in your mind's eye, squeeze everything, your energy into the midline of your body. And some of you may wish to just bring your hips from the floor. And maybe you'd like to go to the next stage, tucking the toes under. So draw the navel in slightly, draw the pelvic floor up, Mula Bandha, Uddiyana Bandha, pressing the hands into the floor, lifting the knees from the floor. You might gently roll the heels back a little. So don't stick your bottom in the air, just keep it straight. And then lower the knees gently. Lower the hips and come down and rest. And again, just pick up on the energy, the sensations inside. Just feel what one posture has done energetically to your body. You may feel a wafting, pulsing sensation of prana, energy, life force moving through your body. So you can just do one more in whichever stage you wanted to work at. So either just the Sphinx or lifting into plank pose. And then just coming up onto all fours after you've done your last Sphinx pose. And tuck the toes under, feet are hip width apart. Start to send the buttocks back toward the heels. There's a nice stretch going on in the back of the toes and the skin of the feet. This can be quite nice if you're somebody who suffers from plantar fasciitis, fasciitis, I think it's called, plantar fasciitis. So that's a thin strip of tendon, ligament or tendon that sits between the arch, the bones of the arch of the foot and the muscle in between it. Okay, just take that pressure off of the feet, bring the forehead down toward the floor. Again, remember, if you can't reach that, you can just put a block underneath your head or a book. Reaching the hands forward until you feel a lovely gaping, yawning sensation in your armpits. And just imagine that you could breathe in through your armpits for a moment, energizing the glands there. Just come up onto spider fingers. So enhancing that stretch. And then flatten the forearms to the floor. And just walk the forearms around to the left. I'm going to turn around so you can see from this side. Taking the arms around to the left. Actually, I'll teach you a mirror image. So taking the arms around to the left. You just feel a lovely stretch down this right side of the trunk. You can lift the head or lower it down, whatever feels right. Take a breath. When I say take a breath, I mean breathe in, pause for a moment, long exhalation, and then pause again. Walking the hands back to the center,
So your forearms resting on the floor again. And now just walk those forearms around to the right. As I say, I'm teaching a mirror image here. So you should feel a nice, lovely lengthening stretch on the outside of the torso, the side of the torso, the flank, on this left side of your chest. And breathe. Sliding the hands back to the center. And then coming back up onto all fours for a moment. And then from here, we're just going to tuck the toes under again, walking the hands back toward the knees. So that's quite an intense stretch here in the back of the heels, back of the feet. And from here, we're coming on to spider fingers again, cupped fingers, and then draw your pelvic floor up and inward, Mula Bandha. Draw the navel in and up a little, Uddiyana Bandha, and lift the knees from the floor so that as we start to roll back a little, we really intensify that stretch in the Achilles tendon. And in time, you'll come to enjoy that. You could try humming when you're in a stretch that's intense for you, because humming is an out breath. At the end of which you have to take a deep breath in again. So it really helps with the breathing. Now we could use this as a balance by lifting the hands from the floor, taking the knees more toward the floor again so that the thighs are parallel. We need to fix our drishti, our gaze, somewhere in front of us. Doesn't matter if we come out of this, we haven't got far to fall. Drop the shoulder blades back down. And again, employing the bandhas and squeezing everything into the midline of the body gives us a sense of core strength and control. So that can be our balance. We're just going to bring the fingers back to the floor again, rolling onto all fours, taking the hands about shoulder width apart, and just tap your feet, the tops of the feet, side to side. And then just pitter-patter the tips of your toes. This is where the nadis start, or in Chinese medicine, the meridians at the tips of the toes. So we're just activating, opening those nadis. Right, now we're going to tuck those toes under. Again, employ your bandhas, Uddiyana Bandha. We should start with Mula Bandha, base chakra, Uddiyana Bandha. And then lift the knees from the floor. You might need to keep your knees bent as we come into dog head down. So we want nice straight arms, engaging those fingertips into the floor. Straight, long, strong arms. Imagine your upper arms are squeezing toward each other. Keep pressing the fingertips into the floor. Start to lift the buttocks. And imagine you could roll your heels back to the wall behind you. And you can stay here, or you can walk the dog. Bend the right knee, straighten the left. Bend the left, straighten the right. And pushing the floor away from you, keeping the back nice and straight. And rest in the center, come up onto tiptoes, back down, up onto tiptoes, back down. This is working the calf muscle, which is a pump for the lymph fluid, pumps it up toward the heart. So it's a really good exercise. You might need to just come down and rest for a moment. So just do that. And just rest back, forehead on the floor, sitting the buttocks back to the heels. If your wrists are feeling it, just give them a little massage. And then we're going to go back up into dog down again. Tucking the toes under, lifting the heels, lift the buttocks. So draw the navel in, breathing into the base of the lungs. And then you can start to walk the feet towards your hands and the hands toward the feet toward the hands, and keep your knees bent. And as you keep your knees bent, just take hold of your big toes with your first two fingers. Press the big toes into your fingers. Pull the big toes with your fingers So you've got this equal and opposite stretch, and then relax that tension a little. Often take this opportunity down here to separate my toes. Okay, rest the hands onto the shins. This is a really lovely way of opening up the lower back. And then slowly, should say, of course, if you suffer from high blood pressure, to keep your gaze ahead of you. Lift your chest a little, looking ahead. So everyone else, just relax the head down. Start to round the back, and very slowly as you stroke your thighs, your shins, your thighs. Coming up to standing. I might need to adjust this. No, it's the other way around. Okay. Great. Okay, so we're finally upright, and of course you can pause this and come back to it any time you want. So we're just going to soften the knees, soften the hands and the arms, apply your Uddiyana Bandha, Mula Bandha, and a little bit of Uddiyana Bandha, so navel back a little bit, loosen the arms. I'm just going to swing the arms around. So the knees need to be bent, so we're not putting any pressure on them. All those ligaments and tendons there in the knees. We can tap the kidneys, which sit here at the top of the back of the waist, as we come round, and tap the shoulder with the other hand. Breathing, breathe in through the nose, out through the nose, or in through the nose, out through the mouth. And it's just a nice way of kind of waking up the body, and then come back to standing. So I'm just going to introduce a little Qigong, which is an energy balance. And we're balancing the yin and the yang, the masculine energy, the feminine energy. So we slap the thighs just above the knees 10 times. 3, 4. You're probably a little bit behind me because of the time lapse. 7. Doesn't matter if we do one more for good luck. Hopefully I've caught up with where you are. And we stop. And then we brush the hands together in this manner. And then we use opposite hand to the opposite thigh. And again, 10 times. 4, 6, more for luck, so hopefully we're all at the same place. Okay, and that should balance the yin and yang. However, what I also like to add to it is a really good way of de-stressing. So start to bounce on your heels. Again, make sure you have engaged Uddiyana Bandha, Mula Bandha and Uddiyana Bandha. Shaking your heels, shaking hands, shaking the arms. This is a lovely way to discharge stress from the body into the earth, back into the earth. You can see from the sides, just bouncing on the heels, shaking the fingers. Okay, keep doing that while I just look at what we're doing next. Yeah. Okay. So resting in the center. Going to come into Tadasana, one of the other classical poses. So bringing the feet together, or you can keep them a little apart, whatever works for you. And beginning to straighten up. But to straighten up, we need to root to rise. Imagine your feet are shooting out roots down into the earth. Feel the outside edges of your feet. Feel the horseshoe heel part of your foot. And the pads of the feet. Lift all toes. As you lift the toes, aim to lay the big toes down first, and then the others. Feel the pads of the toes. So feel that your feet are really earthed, really grounded. Don't be in a hurry to move out of this. I know you've got this to do and that to do. Be here now, just be here now. And then start to suck the muscles back to their bones. Imagine the muscles are sucking from the back and the front to the bones. So you're gently, I hate to say squeezing, but you're drawing the buttocks toward each other. You're tightening
the lower buttocks and bringing the buttocks in toward the midline. So it's not squeezing, clenching, but there's just a connection there. So the muscles are sucking back to their thighs, feet are nicely grounded, lengthening up. And again, have this imaginary line from the pubis to the navel, navel to the heart, heart to the throat, right the way out through the crown of the head. Dropping the shoulder blades back, round and down. Allow the middle fingers to be heavy. And set your drishti. Your drishti is your focal point. So soften your gaze. Rather than your eyes grasping at something in the room, soften the gaze. Allow whatever is in the room to sort of find its way into your eye line as you softly gaze beyond you. And then just as a balance, just lift one foot from the floor. It doesn't matter where it goes. And if you are unable to balance today, you could just rest the heel against the opposite foot. So just peeling one foot from the floor. You can use Gyan Mudra, index finger and thumb resting against each other, other fingers straightened. You can use those for your balance. You can take the foot behind you, out to the side, in front, wherever, but just balancing. You can practice this when you're cleaning your teeth. So the balances don't have to be these intense yoga poses, they don't have to be Vrikasana or the dancer, or you can just practice balancing. Really good for the feet. And then over to the other side. So if you find that you're unable to balance, perhaps you need to stop looking at the screen, fix your drishti elsewhere. Get the breathing steady. Of course, when the breathing is steady, it means the mind is quieter. Excellent, and come out of this. So we're going to take a side bend, so just a simple side bend today, taking the feet 2 to 3 feet apart. And we're simply extending the left arm, reaching it up toward the ceiling, so lengthening down this left side of the body, bringing the right hand to rest on the thigh, and just taking a gentle side bend. Imagine your spine bending sideways. You can pull up Mula Bandha, drawing the pelvic floor up and inward, and then coming up. And as we slide this left hand down the left thigh, reaching up with the right hand and coming into a side bend. Doesn't have to be intense, just lifting, lengthening through this right side of the body, opening the armpit, feeling the length from the ankle to the fingertips, and coming up, and back to the same first side. Inhaling, reaching up with this left arm, reach up toward the ceiling, pulling up the pelvic floor too, just gently bringing it up, navel in slightly, reaching over to the side, and just for a little extra measure, turn the palm toward the ceiling to get that slightly deeper stretch. Coming up and completing our side bend with the other side, reaching right the way up through this right side of the body, sliding this left hand down the thigh. And as we lengthen up out of the hip, just getting a little extra stretch by turning the palm toward the ceiling. Pelvic floor gently up and in, navel inward, breathe deeply. And as we breathe out, coming up. Okay, so we're going to finish this new Christmas Eve workout this evening, or yoga thing this evening, yoga class, with a round of salute to the sun. So we're coming to the front of the mat. I'm a little bit restricted with space here, so I might have to improvise. Okay, stand in Tadasana. Feet can be slightly apart, or it can be a classic, ankles touching, toes touching. Get centered and grounded. Bring the feet into connection with the earth. Imagine breathing up from the center of the earth, through the feet, through the legs. Slightly tighten buttocks, drawing everything into the midline. And we can bring the hands into Anjali Mudra, the prayer position, drawing the thumbs toward the heart center. And then we breathe in as we bring the hands down beside us, take them out to the sides, and we can look up and maybe take a gentle back bend. Doesn't have to be intense. As we breathe out, we're coming into Uttasana, standing forward bend. So we need to bend the knees, many of us, to help the back. Coming into Uttasana, standing forward bend, breathe in and look up. And as you breathe out, you're stepping your right foot back into a high lunge, looking forward. Try and take those shoulder blades back. Now, if your arms and hands don't reach the floor, you could always put blocks underneath or big books underneath your hands, but they need to be the same height. Inhale, and again, it's really helpful here if we've got the bandhas, Mula Bandha, Uddiyana Bandha, to give us that core strength, and use our knees as kind of hinges. We're just going to step that left foot back. So back into dog down. I'll teach a beginner's method, but if you're familiar with Chaturanga, then of course you could do that. But now we're just bringing knees, chest and chin to the floor. Sthana Mudra. Then we slide through the hands into a low cobra or a high cobra, depending on your flexibility. So you might want to be really low, like this, or in a higher cobra. Tucking the toes under. We're back into dog down. We're going to step the same foot, the right foot. So think about bringing this right knee toward the chin, draw the navel in, pelvic floor up and in, and step that right foot between the hands. Back into our lunge. Using the floor to spring off, stepping that left foot to join the right. Uttasana, standing forward bend, knees bent. And then we can take the arms out to the sides again, up to the ceiling, back into the prayer position, to the heart center. And we begin again for the other side. That's half a round, and yogis do 168 at sunrise. Breathing in, sweeping the arms out, and taking a gentle back bend. As we come into a forward bend, Uttasana, bending the knees if we need to, head down, breathe in, look up. And as you lower the head back down, step the left foot back into a high lunge. Lengthening through the front of the body, really feeling that nice opening there on the left hip. And then drawing your bandhas in, Mula Bandha, Uddiyana Bandha, stepping the right foot back to join the left. You can either come forward into plank pose and lower down, or knees, chest and chin to the floor. Lower and come into cobra, either a high cobra or a gentle low cobra. And then tuck the toes under. Keep those bandhas engaged. Keep breathing as you come back into dog down. Looking between your hands, step your left foot between your hands. Bring your right foot to join. Keep the knees bent if need be. As you sweep the arms out beside you, up to the ceiling, back down into the prayer position. And that's one round. So you may wish to do more rounds. You may wish to do them very quickly or very slowly as a meditation. We're just doing that one round for this class today. So if you'd now like to lay back onto the floor into Shavasana. And remembering in Shavasana, our feet are mat width apart. And just feel the energy. Just get onto the mat quite quickly. Don't fiddle around too much. So that you can really feel the energy pulsing through your body. You'll feel your heart centers engaged. Anytime you take your arms up and over your head, you engage your heart and lungs, your cardiovascular and respiratory system. So you can feel the chakras, the energy centers just whirring and pulsing, wafting energy around your body.
When you activate one chakra, it affects the one above it and below it. So we can expect to feel more energized and yet maybe more relaxed at the same time. So we have bent the spine forwards, backwards, and sideways. We're just going to complete with a little twist in a moment's time. Everything settle for a moment. And then as you take your arms out at shoulder height, the palms facing the ceiling, and bend your knees to your chest as tightly as you can get them there. So really think about bringing your knees up towards your chin and keeping the thighs as close to the chest as possible, the knees as high as possible. You can take the knees over toward, imagine you're going to tuck your knees into your left armpit. Now, it may be that your knees just hang out there for a moment. If that's the case, you won't want to stay here for too long because it would put a strain on your back. But if you can bring the knees down for a moment, turning the head to look at the right hand. If this doesn't feel right for you, just skip it. Stay in Shavasana. Breathing in to this lovely stretch across the right armpit, down to the pericardium and across the outer right hip. And breathing in, draw the pelvic floor in and up, navel in. You could just bring one knee up at a time to come back to the center. And then drawing those thighs close towards you. Imagine you're bringing your knees towards your chin. You're going to take the knees over toward the right armpit. And again, it may be that this left arm then hangs up in the air. That's okay, that's not a bad stretch. It's quite a nice stretch for the connective tissue there, the ligaments, the tendons. If it's possible to turn the head to gaze at this left arm, left hand, bringing those right knees, those knees on the right side down to the floor if possible. You could also slide a block between your knees. You could slide a blanket there or even underneath the right knee if your right knee hasn't quite reached the floor yet. Take a breath. In through the nose, out through the nose, or you could hum. You can feel as you lengthen the hum how the body can ease and relax. We won't stay here too long. We need to get the balance from what we did on the other side. So again, gently draw the pelvic floor up and inward. Mula Bandha, draw the navel in and upwards slightly and lift that left knee and then the right knee. And you can just wrap your arms around your knees for a moment, just gently roll from side to side. And then either staying with your feet flat on the floor, if your lower back feels a little sensitive, it might just be awareness, of course, or you can move back into Shavasana. If you're going to stay here for a little bit of relaxation, you might want to place something under your knees. If you've got a bolster, you could place it under the knees. That's always nice for giving a little bit of length to the kidneys. Kidneys and the urinary bladder are the first pair of organs on the hierarchy of the organ body, and just targeting them for a stretch and release is always good. Allow your eyes to close and just focus on your breath. I'm moving, but you stay where you are. Focus on your breathing. Don't change it, but just observe it. Maybe take a moment to ask yourself the question, who am I? Especially at this time of year, the holiday season, we may be having to move into our roles more intensely, mother, father, brother, sister, daughter, niece, nephew, etc. Carer, cook, host. But just for this time on your yoga mat, you don't have to be in a role. You don't have to be anyone but you. Remembering who you are
Where are your boundaries? Perhaps knowing when enough is enough. When do you need to put you first for a short time, maybe a 10-minute yoga practice or 15 minutes of meditation, in order to reconnect with your authentic self before you go back into your roles, so that in your roles you're able to bring more of yourself to the roles. You're able to say no, you're able to say I need to rest, you're able to ask for help or to say no. So who am I? What are your true core values? What defines you? What really matters to you? What's important to you in being able to be your true authentic self? Our yoga practice allows us a little time to not have to be anyone, not have to go anywhere, do anything, just to be. And that is yoga, that's unity. So you'd like to gently wiggle your fingers and your toes. Allow your head to roll from side to side. Bend your knees to your chest. As you roll from side to side, give yourself a compliment, something kind and sincere, something supportive and loving, in case no one else does. Don't leave it to anyone else. Take care of yourself. And then as you come up to a comfortable sitting position, bringing the hands into Anjali Mudra, the prayer position. Keep your eyes closed for a moment. And as you rub your palms together, just energizing the mini chakras in your palms, stimulating warmth there, and then bringing your palms over your eyes. Gently breathe in, separating your fingers to allow light into your eyes as you open them, bringing the hands back to Anjali Mudra. Draw the thumbs toward the heart center, which remind us of our inner self, our true authentic self, and then bow to your own innate knowledge and wisdom. And as you raise your head, Om Shanti, peace be with you. Have a lovely Christmas, have a lovely day, have a lovely whatever time of the day or year it is when you watch this video. And thank you for tuning in. Please subscribe to the channel, and any comments would be welcome. Thank you for coming.